Alright, so I know I'm pretty late to the party, but I finally watched Frieren after like a whole year of it being out. So no Frieren, also known as Frieren Beyond Journey's End, is an anime that came out fall of last year. For a while, it was an anime that I kind of put off since I couldn't really find the time to watch it while it was airing. So I went ahead and decided to wait for the first season to finish up so I could give it a proper chance. But even once I had finished up, I was still pretty burnt out for watching anime as a whole, so I continued to hold it off. But during summer of this year, that finally changed, and I finally went ahead and watched all 26 episodes of the first season, and I can safely say I'm glad I did, because this is undoubtedly the best anime I've watched this year. Yeah, nah, this show really blew my expectations of it. I remember seeing it being #1 on Mal, thinking it can't be that good. Which, after watching, I still don't think it's #1. But it's a show that I can honestly understand and respect it being there, and for multiple reasons. In my opinion, I think the show has a very strong start. From the first few episodes, it gives us a taste of what the rest of the show is going to be like, with an interesting fantasy setting and a heavy focus on time. One of the things that I was immediately invested into was its characters, especially the main character herself, Frieren. Frieren's an elf mage that was once in a legendary party of heroes, but since elves live longer than humans and the main story takes place several decades after she was a member of this party, she realizes she didn't get to truly appreciate the time that she spent with them, as we can see during the first episode when she's at the funeral of one of her fellow party members named Himmel. But this event also makes her want to cherish the time she has with humans more, and we see on her new journey that she goes on to see Himmel again that she creates a strong bond with her new group. I think as a protagonist, she fits so well for this series. I mentioned earlier that time was a huge focus in this anime. Having someone whose lifespan well surpasses that of any human creates for so many possibilities for her character, and is why I think she's a perfect fit. Though she wasn't the only character I was invested into early on, I think overall the show has a very strong cast. Fern, who's one of the 2 members of Frieren's current party, is another example. She's basically Frieren's student and she learns most of her spells from her. The two have a pretty interesting dynamic throughout the series, and it goes beyond your basic student and teacher trope, with both of them looking out for each other and having each other's backs during battles. And then you have the third member of the group, Stark. Now, unlike Frieren and Fern, who are mages, Stark is a warrior who trained under Ison, who is one of Frieren's former party members. He basically embodies the coward character trope, though the way his character is written gives an interesting take on the trope. He's not so much of a coward to the point where it's annoying, and he doesn't really hesitate when it comes down to a battle. Overall, out of the main trio, he's probably the most relatable. Then you've also got Sign, who was in the group temporarily for a few episodes before going on his own journey, and I'm really interested to see where his character will end up in the future. Now, there's more characters introduced later on, though I'll discuss them later when I talk about the story. Now, another thing that really had me invested into the show was definitely its world building. When it comes to adventure or fantasy series, world building is a very important factor. For example, one of the reasons a series like One Piece works so well is the vast world it creates and how well it showcases each location the characters visit. And in my opinion, I think Frieren does a really great job at doing this. While its world isn't as vast as a long series like One Piece, it still manages to do a good job of showing off each location and giving them some sense of importance, especially because of the characters that we meet within them. Even if it's a small location that may not be that important, it still feels like we're getting closer to the main goal bit by bit, and it really gives the show a whole lot more life. Now, as for the anime's plot and story, I've gone over some of it while talking about the characters. I already mentioned the main goal of this series with Frieren going on a journey to see Himmel again, and also gone into the world building, but there's still a lot more within this one season that I could still talk about. This anime is mostly comprised of mini arcs, most of which are only about 2 to 5 episodes long, and it's overall a pretty episodic show, which I'm aware may not be for everyone, but the show does pretty well at keeping you interested. And these episodes add more to the main cast and strengthens their characters. Just take the Aura arc for example. This arc focuses on the relationship between humans and demons, and it does a really great job at establishing that. While fighting against the demons in this arc, we get some really great moments from the main trio, especially between Stark and Fern, with them teaming up to take down the enemies, further strengthening the bond between them. The show overall does a really good job with this, even with more minor characters, which we see a lot of within the final arc of the season, the Mage Exam arc. Out of all the arcs in the show, this one's probably my favorite. Basically, in this point in the story, to continue on their journey, Frieren and Fern must become first-class mages, and to do so, one of them must pass the exam. During the exam, we're introduced to a whole bunch of new characters, each of which have interesting dynamics with one another, along with having their own unique spells and ways of fighting. Like Ubel, for example, whose spells can basically allow her to cut through just about anything, or even Lan's ability to clone himself, which was showcased really well in battle. This arc feels different than a lot of other exam or tournament arcs in anime. It somewhat reminds me of the Hunter exams from Hunter x Hunter, in that the characters have to complete multiple different challenges in order to pass, with each stage being more difficult than the previous one. All of these reasons are why I like this arc so much. Oh, and of course I have to mention one more thing: the fights. The fights within this arc were just flat out amazing, and they're really just a cherry on top, though this could honestly be said about the whole series. This anime likes to use a whole lot of sakuga, and it uses some really great choreography and animation when it comes to its action. Everything just looks so crisp and clean, especially with the colors and the character movements. And it's always cool to see a modern anime not use CGI in its fights. Not that that's a dig at CGI, because when it's done right, it looks really good. But the fact that this anime reaches this level of quality while only using 2D just makes it even more impressive, and I can't wait to see how much it'll improve in future seasons. Another thing I really appreciate about Frieren's story is just how different it feels compared to other modern fantasy anime. Of course, it has its tropes like an overpowered MC and a slight bit of fan service, though none of it really feels unnecessary or repetitive. This anime doesn't even have the defeat the evil demon lord who's trying to take over the world trope that every other fantasy / isekai series has, since technically Frieren's old party already beat him. Feels like such a breath of fresh air from all the other modern fantasy adventure series we see nowadays. It's starting to feel like over 90% of these revolve around being an isekai, on top of having like a long ass title. Low key nowadays, isekai is like the slop content of anime. This is no dig at modern isekai or fantasy anime. Like if you're a fan of them, there's nothing wrong with that. Even for me personally, there's some that I enjoy, but for the most part, it's become a very oversaturated genre that was in desperate need for a change. I think Frieren, along with a couple other recent series, are the solution to that. One last thing that I do want to mention as it pertains to the story of the show is how well it ties in its emotional moments. Throughout the season, we get multiple flashbacks of Frieren with their old group, and it really adds a lot more to not just Frieren, but everyone else in the party, especially Himmel. With each passing flashback, you get more attached to his character, along with him and Frieren's relationship. So much so that I look back at the first episode now, and his funeral scene hits so much harder. I already mentioned earlier that time was a huge focus in this anime, and the show pretty much teaches us not to take it for granted, and to cherish the experiences you have and the people around you before it's too late. And personally, I think it executes this message wonderfully. With me now being caught up on the show and enjoying it as much as I did, I'm really curious to see where the series goes on from here. I know I could just go ahead and read the manga to find out, but honestly, I'm gonna stick to being anime only, at least for the time being. Also, season 2 got announced months ago, so I'm pretty hyped for that. Not really sure when it's gonna be coming out, but just know your boy finna be there. Anyways though, if you've made it this far into the video and haven't watched Frieren yet, I highly recommend you do. Me personally, after watching it, it was definitely worth it, and it made me realize I was truly sleeping on this amazing anime. But with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. Leave your thoughts below on Frieren down in the comment section. Like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you all in the next video.